welcome back to my channel, guys. And guys, today I bring you guys a cushion review video. I haven't done one in a very actually no, that's a lie. I did do one recently with the Sam, reviewing the Sam cushion, but other than that, damn, it's been forever since I did a cushion review. And the reason why I bring you guys one is because I am so impressed by these new releases that I just had to make this video. I was like, damn, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about K-beauty technology advancements. Yes. So I bring you guys 6 of the hottest cushions that are popping right now in Korea, and I thought it would be fun to share them with you guys. So let's go. Before we get started, of course, I have to share with you guys my skin type. I do have combination skin, oily T-zone, and very dry, extremely dry cheek areas, and I sweat a lot, which has become a very big factor when looking at the longevity of these cushions, I've noticed. So please bear that in mind when you're watching this video. But yeah, your girl sweats a lot. She sweats. Alright, starting off with this Jungsaemmool Skin Nuder Cover Layer Cushion. Jungsaemmool is a legend when it comes to K-beauty. I think she and her brand makes the best base makeup products, whether it be cushions, foundation. So obviously when she released a new one, I had to check it out. If you didn't know, my ultimate favorite cushion is her Skin Nuder Essentials cushion, but that might be changing, guys, because we're getting so many awesome new cushions. So yeah, this is a cushion that is more on the matte side. She definitely had the whole pandemic cushion situation in mind when releasing this, of course. And what's interesting about Jungsaemmool cushions is that she usually has these grids, textured grids at the side. And Jungsaemmool is very adamant about using just the right amount of product, whether it be cushion or foundation. And that's what this little textured grid is for. So once you dab the puff in the sponge, you basically dump off the product onto this grid, and you swirl it until this part becomes gray. That's her tip, which is a gray because this is that's a pretty straightforward guideline as to how much product you're supposed to put on, as opposed to other cushions where like, oh, be careful with how much amount you use. However, I could not help but cringe as I was using this because I'm just like, damn, that's a lot of product I'm wasting. I feel like I'm dumping probably half the product I'm using onto this little grid. So I don't know if I'm happy about that, because as a layman, non-expert, non-professional, as an average consumer, I want to get a bang for my buck. So I feel like, oof, that just feels like a lot. Perhaps in the future there could be inventions where the puff just picks up the right amount to begin with. But anyways, that's my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents. Now let's look at the actual formulation as I apply it on. The formula itself is very thin but packed with pigments. And one of the most distinctive traits about this cushion that just stood out for me was how just pristine it goes on. It just 그냥 깔끔하게 올라가. It just looks so clean. It just goes on so neatly. There we go. And I also want to talk about the puff too. I've noticed that the puff really does influence the way the formulation goes onto your skin. So this is a pretty hard one, I guess. And what's interesting about this puff is that the puff first seems to absorb all the product and just spits back the product out bit by bit. It doesn't spit it out all together, but you'll just be amazed by how much the puff will continue to put back out the formula as you're doing your makeup. And I do definitely think that it's the puff that's helping the formulation go on ever so thinly onto your skin. And because it goes on ever so thinly, I've noticed that this doesn't immediately fill up your borders. This is one of the formulas where the formula kind of just sits on top, and so it doesn't necessarily fill up the borders as other cushions might. However, I will say this is definitely one of those cushions that with time, as time goes by, it mixes so well with your sebum and sweat that it will actually make your pores look nice or invisible if that's what you're aiming for. At first, it kind of reminded me of how the original Black Hera cushion seemed to go on, where it kind of seems to emphasize your pores instead of covering them up. But definitely this does a better job, guys. This does a better job, so don't worry. The coverage is definitely medium, I guess to 70%, but please remember that coverage is relative, so it really does depend on what kind of situation you're dealing with. This does a really good job in covering up the redness. The hyperpigmentation, not so much. I definitely do have to go back in. Talking about going back in, you can definitely layer this, but if you're not careful, I've noticed that this can get thick pretty fast. So please, please, please do not get carried away when using this cushion. As for the finish, this is more of a semi-matte, but of course, as it is with any cushion or foundation products, it really does depend on how you did your skincare prior to it. And because I like to do my skincare really, really dewy, and I like to be very thorough, I've noticed that this cushion isn't as like semi-matte as I thought it would be. It was actually does kind of give that glint afterwards like this one. And the great news is that it barely transfers onto the mask. There is like minimal like bits here and there, but it's not too bad. And for the longevity, of course, like I mentioned, this is just one that will give your skin more and more of that glowy, dewy, glistening look. One thing I will mention though, that only applies, the whole glistening situation applies when you do have more of an oily skin type, or if you sweat a lot like me. I've noticed that there was one day where I didn't sweat. I know, surprise, shock, and it did kind of dry out my cheek areas, and I've noticed that it would emphasize my smile lines, which I actually don't have much. So please, 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 if you have like extremely dry skin and you don't sweat at all, please make sure to do a very, very thorough job of doing your skincare. In conclusion, I definitely recommend this if you have more of a combination to oily skin type, especially if you're someone who likes ending up with that dewy, flawless look. Oh, P.S. I got mine in shade 22. I actually bought two. I got one in 21 and light. This is a bit bright for me, so I'm definitely sticking with 22, which does have a more of a stronger yellow base, but I feel like that works for me because I have a lot of redness going on, and I feel like the yellow base does a good job in covering that. Moving on to the second cushion, guys. Yes, but this is a new Espoir. Hold on, I did not memorize the name. Pro Tailor B Velvet Cover Cushion. First of all, I love the red design. Yes, fierce. Passionate. Okay, so Espoir just released this cushion and a foundation, as a matter of fact, recently, and I was so impressed. To be completely honest with you guys, I am way more impressed with the foundation than the cushion, but you know, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. All right, taking a deeper look at this beautiful ruby red cushion. First of all, the packaging is like, what's going on? It's got a slant, and you guys don't know how expensive it is to create a cushion foundation from scratch. And inside, you open it up, you get a sleek, chic ass black puff that's actually really, really squishy. It's got a lot of like airiness to it. And inside, you get a regular cushion with Be Velvet on it. Be Velvet. First of all, the formula is ever so thin. Like all these formulas, guys, like the cushions, the formulas are so much more thin than other cushions that we've seen in the past. And even though this cushion did come out as like a velvet type, I honestly found this a lot more hydrating than I anticipated. Of course, it's not as dewy as like other cushions, but so it actually goes out a lot more hydrating. But after some time, it does settle down. Now, I will say this cushion doesn't settle or fixate as well as the foundation does. This one, I feel like it does kind of move around, especially if you go in with a puff, which is understandable. You know, if you're physically moving something, it's bound to move. But I'm just saying. I will say on the brighter note, because the puff is so squishy, it really does do a better job in pushing the formula into your pores. So it does fill it up better than the Jungsaemmool one for sure. So if you're someone who are like, oh, I want one where it just makes my pores disappear, this is definitely one you can check out. As for the coverage, I'd also say this is about like 70%. It's not like the thick ass cakey full-on coverage, but it does an okay job. It definitely does cover up my redness and also a bit of hyperpigmentation on my chin. And also for the finish, likewise with the Jungsaemmool, I didn't really found this to be absolutely velvet. But once again, this also might be due to the fact that I go ham on my skincare prior and the fact that I sweat a lot. I also found this to give me that glint afterwards, and it wasn't as drying as the Jungsaemmool one. Even on days where I didn't sweat, I didn't find this to be drying. But likewise, on the good news, this doesn't transfer too much on the mask either, which I loved. And also just seemed to melt down really well, mix in really well with my sweat and sebum. and it just looked pristine. In conclusion, for this cushion, I honestly would recommend this cushion to a wider range of skin types just because it doesn't lean towards a specific trait drastically. Like I said, even though it's velvet, it's not too matte, and even though it does have coverage, it's not too crazily cakey. So perhaps if you're like combo dry to combo oily skin, I think if you have oily skin and you're not into the whole glistening dewy situation, you might feel like this is a bit too dewy. Oh my gosh, the next cushion. Yes, 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 girl. Oh my. This also blew my pants off. This blew my socks off. This is a new Rom&nd new Zero cushion. I did get in the beige. Oh, sorry guys. For the Espoir one, I did get mine in 22 Petal. That is the shade I always get. It is a bit more brighter, but I don't know. It's just the shade that I've always gotten when I'm using Espoir one. But anyways, there we go. Going back to the Rom&nd one, I did get mine in beige 23 because everything was sold out. And I was like, but I want one so I can review it fast for you guys. That's right, me staying on top of things. But for a little bit of background information, so they originally have the Zero cushion, which to be honest, I did not like. I found that it went on too thick and it would emphasize my smile lines like crazy, like no joke, no joke. And so I was a little bit apprehensive at first. I was like, ooh, what if this gets messy as well? But fear not. Wow, I was so impressed with this. Let's take a quick look at the design first. It seems like it's kind of got a plastic layer on top. Then inside you get a pointed puff. This puff is very, very soft and squishy as well. And inside you get a nice cushion filled with the formulation. All of these cushions in general, like the formulation is thin. I gotta say, this has the thickest formulation. Not saying that this is thick on an absolute term, just relatively, I just found this to be a bit thicker. And this may be due to the fact that I just found this to be packed and filled with pigments. It is so heavily pigmented. On the brighter note, the pigments feel very finely milled, and I feel like that was the new breakthrough and advancements in this whole K-beauty cushion technology, which I was very, very impressed. So it just feels like you're just coating a very thin layer of pigment paint. See, this is going to give you a higher coverage. It's going to fill up the borders. And as for the puff, when I first used it, it felt like the puff picked up a lot of product, and I was like, wow, this puff seems to hold so much product. But as I'm using it more and more like the puff picks up the product and just literally pastes the formulation onto the formula. Like it literally copy and pastes, and it kind of reminded me of the Clio Foundwear Kill cover cushion, the black one. The coverage is definitely on the higher side. I'd say like 80% for me personally. Also guys, I feel like this is also a cushion that can get cakey if you get carried away, so please be sensible when using a formulation like this. Now let's talk about the finish. I feel like the best part about this cushion is that it legit gives you that look as if you have a filter on your face. You know, that Instagram filter, like in Korean we would say like 간달걀, right? I was so impressed. I was like, whoa, this looks amazing. And because the formulation is a bit thicker, I feel like it does a better job in covering up the texture problems that you might have, the borders, etc. And I feel like that's what gives it a more smooth surface. On the downside, I found that this does transfer onto the mask a little bit more than other cushions, and the finish also really changed depending on how I would do my skincare. Like obviously with all base foundation cushions, your skincare is going to influence the finish, the longevity of your skincare, but I found that this got affected more so than other products, and it might be due to the fact that this was the least semi-matte out of all, no, actually compared to the first two cushions that I shared with you guys. So if you want obviously more of a dewy look, make sure to go in with a more thorough compact skincare, but obviously note that if you do that, this will transfer more onto your mask. All in all though, I will mention that in general, like whether you did too much skincare or did too little, like it didn't get messy on my skin, which was a huge improvement compared to just the Zero cushion that they have. But this also might be due to the fact that I have now graduated the noob level of a cushion user. before. Oh my gosh, I used to go ham when using cushions. Now I know how to control myself and be sensible and just use the right amount. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why I'm just experiencing better longevity with these cushions. So I just would like to apologize if you did used to watch my old cushion reviews. I just want to apologize. I'm so sorry for, you know, using so much product on my face and being like, the longevity is terrible. Sorry about that. Just to elaborate a little bit on the longevity, it just seems to melt away. I didn't find this to, you know, get messy at all. It just melts away really nicely with the sweat and sebum. So me loves. Next up, we have a fancy schmancy one. Yes. We have the Espoir. This is the Touche Eclat Glow-Pact cushion. I have this in B10, which is a very, very bright shade. I do regret not getting the darker shade, but I lost the receipt. I threw away the receipt. Actually, that's a lie. I didn't accept the receipt. Sorry, never got the receipt. But anyways, but it worked out because of how the formula is. I'll get into that later. And did you guys know, like, with these higher brand cushions, they're only sold in Asia? I didn't know that. I thought they will be sold worldwide, but they're made in Asia and they're made in Korea. So very proud of Korea. Yeah. This blew up on social media because of its beautiful packaging. Yes. And so everyone was like reviewing it. So I also had to check it out. So this is a beautiful cushion with a cushion leathery. I hope it's not real leather. Then inside you get a nice YSL puff, which is, it's not too squishy and it's not too firm. It kind of like sits in the middle. And then inside you have something different. Yes, you have a mesh. When you dab the puff in, you'll notice that it's a lot more hydrating. Ooh, this just gives me so much satisfaction. And once you apply it on, you'll notice that this formula is very hydrating. It's very thin. And I feel like the percentage of water content is very, very high. So it's actually not too pigmented. And I feel like even if you do keep layering it on, it necessarily won't get cakey because it's got so much water in it. And it will just give you that nice kind of glossy look as if you've done tons of skincare. The puff, like I mentioned, is a squishy type. And I feel like this puff does help pile on the product in terms of like coverage to an extent, but like I said, the coverage is very minimal. It just looks like you've done a great job of doing skincare with a bit of pigment. And so of course with this cushion, the finish is very, very dewy. I only recommend it if you have dry skin type or combo, or you just like that glowy, dewy finish. As for the longevity, it just kind of melts away once again. And I just gotta say, with this formula of this cushion, it was very predictable. Everything was kind of predictable. Once I slapped it on, I was like, okay, this is going to go on this way and the longevity is going to go this way. Likewise, when it comes to mask transfer, because like I said, the water content is so high, even though you're like layering it on, you won't necessarily get a lot of pigment transferation. Overall, to be completely honest, this was a cushion that didn't really surprise me. I wasn't like blown away by it. I mean, it's pretty and it's very nice to look at, definitely, but like the content itself wasn't too surprising. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad if you have dry skin type and you want something really, really just thin, just really skincare-like. This is definitely your go-to. But I don't know, I was just so blown away by the first two cushions that I was just like, you lacking, girl. All right, for the last two cushions, I do have the V&A, what are you called? The Longwear Cushion Foundation, and I have the Shhom. This is their all-day deep cover cushion 01. So I have a light vanilla and number 2 natural beige. And I'm showing these two together because honestly, I didn't find them to be really different. Let's just start with the V&A one. So V&A is a skincare brand from the museum V&A, Victoria and Albert, very, very popular museum in England, London. And so you get a black sleek cushion case, and then inside, ooh, I love the puff. So I believe this is their artworks that they own. I thought that just gave it the magical touch. And inside you have the regular sponge drenched with the formulation. With the V&A cushion, once again, the formulation itself is very, very thin, and the puff is a squishy one. And I just found the formulation to be one that sits very comfortably on your skin. Like in Korean, I would say like skin fit, right? It just literally hugs the skin. and it's very thin, very breathable, should I say, while giving you a certain amount of coverage. And this is just one of those formulas that anyone can use. You don't need to be an expert at doing base makeup. You can just go ham and it will still work fine. It's just a really easy cushion to work with, and it gives you a nice finish as well. It's not too dewy, it's not too matte. It just feels like it's adapted to your own skin and just kind of gives you like a second skin layer, if you know what I mean. Now, with that being said, the coverage isn't too crazily high. I feel like this does cover up my redness, but not my hyperpigmentation all too well. It does really get into the nooks and crannies really well, and it does cover up the pores because the formulation itself is very hydrating and the cushion is so squishy. So once again, it just pushes the product into the pores. But overall, you won't get like a cakey thick formula or layer. And as for the whole mask transfer situation, it was very minimal, which I was very surprised by. With the longevity, just melts away nicely. Nothing too surprising with this one either. And likewise goes the same thing with the Shhom one. So Shhom is also a cushion that just blew up on SNS. Everyone seemed to use it, and so I had to check it out. First of all, digging the mirror of it, so like you can see if you have like lipstick on your teeth or any eye boogers, etc, etc. Inside you get a nice big puff and it's very squishy. I think this might be the squishiest out of all of it. I love how it feels on the skin. In terms of like the whole experience, it was very similar to the V&A. Of course, this does have its differences. Like I found that this was a bit more hydrating and it did seem to carry a little bit of coverage. And so there are those little differences, but on the whole, likewise, it's very thin. It will get into nooks and crannies. It's very hydrating. It also gives you that skin fit feels where it just comfortably goes on and just hugs the skin like this. And you also don't really need to pay attention to how much product you're using. You can just go like this and you're done. Also, the longevity was pretty equivalent. Like it just melted away really nicely. It didn't have as much mask transfer either. That's about it. That's all I have to say about these two cushions. Please do not misunderstand that I'm saying that these two are bad. I'm just saying that I wasn't really like blown away. Like like these cushions, I probably like seen it somewhere. All in all, I do recommend these two cushions if you have more of a drier skin type or combo skin, or you just want one where you're like, I don't have time to focus on how much like amount I use Jungsaemmool, you know, you just need to head out the door in 5 minutes. Then these cushions are definitely your go-tos. All right, guys, that was it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm back with the cushion reviews. If you guys want to see more, make sure to let me know in the comments down below, because I can't wait to see more advancements in cushions. I was so blown away. But yeah, well done everyone, well done. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next